So, hello everybody. My name's Christian Perticone, and I'm the Director of Intensive English Programs at ASA College. And it's my pleasure today to introduce three very talented and interesting writers and members of our ASA faculty, who many of you know. This would be Selin Senol-Akin and Eileen Ressler, and a very talented student, Karen Bonowicz, who's going to be running this event today. So I hope everybody enjoys this and gets a lot out of it. I'm sure I will. So with that, I'd like to hand this over to Karina.
Thank you, Christian. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Writers Within event. It's a great pleasure for me to be a host of this meeting as an ASA student, but also as a writer, especially that I know our guests and I knew them before, so do you. But for the first time, you have a chance to know them a bit more because today they show you the other side of them because they are a teacher, but also they are a great writers. So today we discuss writing and teaching and creative process. So you can ask any questions, but it would be nice if you put your questions in a chat box because then we can keep it in order and I can read it aloud. So I think it's the best way to keep this meeting, nice. So welcome our guests, and the floor is yours. Celine, be the first one.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Karina. It's an honor to be here. Thank you guys all for coming on a wonderful, sunny Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So I'm Selin Senol-Akin. I've been at ASA for nearly 3 years now. I'm also an author. I've published a mystery novel. Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm always nervous. Teachers get nervous too, not just students. Called The Catalyst, and a poetry book entitled Write Out Your Drops. I will read you a little excerpt, but before I do, I would like to share with you my website to kind of give you an idea of what I've been doing. First of all, if you can see the website, give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, for some reason it's not scrolling on my end. I have no idea why it's not scrolling, but so myname.com, you can always check my website. It has my poetry, Write Out Your Drops, is also my IG handle. You can follow me on Instagram for more poetry. I've published an amazing trailer for my novel with my former publishers, Galaxy Publishing. I will now like to share that trailer with you guys. Hopefully you like it, because a book trailer, remember, just like a movie trailer, is intended to sort of give a preview and a mood and tone of the novel. So let me share that with you guys. Hopefully there won't be any technical difficulties on that end. 1 second. Let me stop share to make sure the sound is on. Yes, the sound is shared. Okay, wonderful. So, do you guys all see YouTube? Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you. And I can scroll, thank goodness. Before I couldn't scroll. Okay, so let's go.
Do you believe in coincidence? Do you believe in second chances? How about new beginnings? But what if old demons follow you? What about consequences?
So watch for it, wait for it.
Would you seize an exciting opportunity? Despite questionable circumstances? Would you risk hurting those who love you in the quest for yourself? Who are the forest beings? Humans? Angels? But what about the third ones? Everyone's nature can be questionable. Nature can heal. Nature can destroy.
Who am I talking to?
Nature can catalyze.
And it fades into the cover page, the cover shot, which is not me, but I sort of dressed up like this random model here to sort of look like that. All right, that was by Elmer Quintero. He's very talented. Okay, so yes, I hope you guys enjoy that trailer for my book and the voiceover. I came up with it, yes, that was my voice. I love doing these things. I love video creation, content creation. I use IG crazy, like I use it really intensively. But I also have a poetry book that I've written called Write Out Your Drops. Thank you so much for the comments. And I will now like to read for you guys a poem about New York City, because that's where we are all at, aren't we? Are we all in New York City here? Anybody from out of town? No? Okay. All right. So this is my ode to New York City. I grew up in New York City. You may hear a subtle accent. I'm from Istanbul, Turkey originally. I came here when I was 7 years old. I grew up here. All my education was obtained here. But first of all, I would like to start off saying that I was an immigrant to this country, and if I can become an author, you can do whatever you would like. Okay, so that's my disclaimer. And here we go. This is called Like versus Love. Perfect. Thank you. Like versus love. This city is made up of bridges. Once you're on the path of one, there's no way out. You must face the consequences waiting on the other side, whether you're apathetic or devout. The city is full of dirty noise, one of many things about it beyond your control. You must force yourself to enjoy the fast pace, even when you're weary and jaded after it all. You don't like New York. It can never make you feel whole, yet you love it, you breathe it. It's the city where you root your soul. That is just one example of many poems I have. Thank you, Christian. Regarding, life and philosophy and love and relationships and motherhood. I have a little 5-year-old daughter, and it's also about family and a lot of, multifaceted topics. And on that note, After I've spoken about New York City, I would now like to give the floor to my fellow New York author whose book, Teopoldo's Greyhound, I've enjoyed immensely, and she has many books. I would now like to give the floor to Professor Ressler.
Eileen, we need you to there.
We all do that all the time. All right. What I love about I love your presentation for many different elements. One phrase that stood out was quest for yourself, right? And you're going to see how that ties in to what I'd like to share about my writing and my experience as a New Yorker. Another thing I love about your presentation, you took your experience as a writer and you put it right next door to your experience as a New Yorker. And I truly believe that the power and the beauty of both of them comes from an urge to recreate ourselves. Think about it. I've been at ASA for 15 years. I've worked with thousands of students, right? Many of them international students. Everyone comes here with an urge to recreate him or herself, right? I work with as many native New Yorkers, a lot of them single parents, single moms who say, you know what? I'm going to change my life for my family. I'm going to recreate myself. So I really love that you put those together because I feel very deeply, it's not about the books or the publications. It's really about that creative impulse. And for some of us, we express it as New Yorkers. So we express it through our education. The three of us happen to be writers, but you can be an artist. You can be a painter. You can be a musician. You can raise flowers on your windowsill. And you could be raising happy, healthy kids. It's all the same urge, right? The creative urge to kind of remake life around us. And that's the excitement for me. That's the excitement of teaching. That's the excitement of writing. So what I would like to share, I'll come back to that question later. How do you create? How do we all create? It's an intuitive process. All right, that's a great question. It's not what I was going to do right now, but Christian asked, how do you create? You have two beautiful twin daughters, and every day you're creating those girls. Nature creates us, and we recreate ourselves and the people around us who we love. You know, we can do the opposite, right? People can be destructive, right? We've all experienced that. But the key in life is to create. And I knew since I was 7 years old, I'm a writer. You know, my brother is a painter, Glenn Cox, so you'll meet him today, you'll meet his work, is a painter. I've grown up around art, but you grow from a very young age. You learn to listen to that voice, Christian, and it will tell you who you are. And for me, as an older person, right, that's something I've come to understand is my purpose on earth, right? It's the creative, whether it's creating in a classroom, you know, whether it's helping my students create their new reality, whether it's creating characters and entertaining myself, to me, it's that force of life. So what do you think? Christian, did I answer your question? All right, I'm going to go on. That was in the chat box. I don't know how this operates exactly, but I love a dialogue. You know, if any of you want to put questions in the chat box. So what I'd like to share with you is very briefly has been my creative journey. When I started writing, initially, I mostly wrote poetry like a lot of my students do. We write poetry at times in our lives that are tumultuous. Right? We write poetry because it gives us a safe place, right? When our emotional lives are in conflict. Now, but growth has changed. I didn't keep writing poetry. You know, then I had children. And what I found when I had kids is that the poetry took me away from my kids. I had toddlers. I had 3 toddlers, and they would accidentally unplug, they would kick out the plug from my brother word processor. We didn't have PCs, and I would lose everything and I would freak out. And I said, no. That's not what this is about. I'm going to start writing for my own children. And if you can see now on the screen, do you now see on the screen these covers going by? That was the result of writing for my children. I started writing stories for my kids, started publishing in their school, because publishing is making public. So when I took those stories and I read them to the kids in kindergarten, to me, that's publication. And that was the most exciting publication. Then I was fortunate. I had stories published in children's magazines. I had an independent publisher in England who was really supportive of my work for many years. I worked for Bearport, the books that you're seeing now. And what we do at Bearport is we create books of high interest that go as sets of books into libraries. Now you see some of them are little baby books, but mostly I'm their spooky specialist. So these sets of books will, and I love that idea that nobody had to buy them. You know, these books go into the library and any kid could find a book of interest, right? And put it back on the shelf for another child. Now, I've been writing children's books, I would say, since my kids are grown already, but I've been with it because I'm a kid. I've been writing children's fables, fairy tales for, I'd say, 20 years now. It's a journey. You know, your life is long. You guys don't realize how long your lives are and all the creative possibilities in your life. From your associate's degree, going to go for a bachelor's, going to go into nursing. You'll go back, no expiration date, you'll get your master's, your PhD. Life is a long creative process. For me, it expressed itself as a writer. Look into yourselves, find your own creative principle, and have a happy life. Now, from these books, so from the children's stories, I started writing. I had a publisher in England at the time, Braeswick. He was very supportive, and I was able to publish, I call them YA, but they're really children's books for people of all ages, all right? But then I took another turn. You know, what I'm going to share with you today, for the last 2 years, I've gone back to drama. When I was, I don't know, in my early 20s, mid-20s, I got an MFA in dramatic writing. I love drama. That's always been my first love, is dramatic writing. I love Shakespeare. I love reading plays. I love August Wilson. I love talking about plays with my students. I love when my students write dramatic monologues. I love drama, even more than fiction. So I went back and I started writing. I'm really excited. I'll be sharing it through ASA in August 21st, 22nd. My first children's play will be produced in a festival on Governor's Island. I'm thrilled. I'm just so over the moon because it's going to be a chance to take some of this work directly and see kids' reaction. Wonderful. I've also worked on a play, which we will be doing a scripted reading of here at ASA, probably in August or September. So let me tell you about the most recent growth, right? Growth and development. Branches go in new directions, unexpected directions. I've been very fortunate over the last 12 years to be with my partner, Glenn Cox. Now, talk about a New Yorker who's recreated himself. Actually, I met Glenn through a drama club that we had at ASA many, many, many years ago, all right? And at that time, we collaboratively, the whole group of us, we wrote a play, all right? And we performed it classroom to classroom. That was exciting. Then over the years, we've continued our creative process. And most recently, Glenn and I it was COVID actually. Throughout COVID, Glenn, all right, let me back up and tell you, Glenn spent 17 years wrongfully imprisoned. You can read the play and understand the story. But based on his experience in prison, right, there have been so many stories over the years that he's told me. And many of these stories many of them are brutal, but many of them are very humane. So during COVID, I interviewed Glenn. I have about 50 hours of interviews. And then based on our experience, the interviews, we wrote a play entitled 17 North. I'm going to share you just the beginning of that play today. You'll also find in the play that he discusses how he survived prison, and that was through his creative principle. He's a storyteller. He's a writer. He wrote his book. He became an artist. He counseled young people. Those are all creative principles, right? So when he came out, felony, some people may understand what that means, couldn't find employment. Before prison, he was a city worker. He was a counselor. And he became a subway singer. You may have even met him. You may know him. Creative principle again. And now during COVID, I'm very proud and happy to say he's become a painter again. So this play is not about a man being wrongfully incarcerated for 17 years. It's about how a human being survives circumstances through that same creative principle that Selin was speaking about. All right, so let me just share the beginning of that play with you. So what I did today is I went to my blog. So if you're at all interested and you'd like to read the play, it's on Amazon, but just come to the website. You can read it right here. I have the play. If any of you teach, I've used it with my Comp 1 students, feel free. So what I'd like to do today, this is the cover. published it just now as an ebook. We're going to be doing a print copy soon. But let me just share the beginning of the play and invite you, right? Pre-invite you to, we're going to have a scripted reading. I have a wonderful actor, his name is Michael Gaines, who's going to be reading the part based on Glenn. I have an ASA student who's going to be reading the other part, and another ASA professor. And again, that's what I love about ASA, you know, these kind of mergers, these creative mergers that we have. And I want to do more of them with all of you. All right. So here's the play. I lost the cover, but here we go. All right. So let's go back to, all right, North. Okay, North is a restorative drama. Don't know if you can read this text on your screen, but I will read it to you. Let me move these pictures so I can see. So a restorative drama based on the trial transcripts and oral history of Glenn Cox, recounting his 17-year incarceration after a wrongful conviction of murder in Bronx Supreme Court in 1992, and his subsequent experiences in Attica, Otisville, Orleans, and Hudson correctional facilities. In 1992, the struggle of Glenn Cox, a New York City worker wrongfully convicted of murder, began. And as this play affirms, it was through the creative spirit that he survived 17 years of incarceration, singing, reading, painting, and caring for his kids out here and in there. In these times of isolation and fear, we have much to learn from his experience and from his character, O.T., who says in 17 North, "It is again time to let the spirit lead." Setting: a subway platform, New York City, March 2020, in the early days of the pandemic, when fewer and fewer people are commuting and only a few die-hard singers and musicians show up to perform, until one day, a singer and a guitarist find themselves on an empty train platform. Characters: O.T., subway singer whose graying dreads have thinned since he began growing them as an act of resistance when he was wrongfully imprisoned in Attica in 1992. This play recounts his 17-year incarceration in Attica, Orleans, Otisville, and Hudson correctional facilities. Since his release, he has supported himself with various jobs in recent years as a subway singer. With the onset of the lockdown, that livelihood is about to end. Avi, a homeless street musician who, like O.T., is lingering on the subway platform just as New York City prepares to lock down. Early 20s, waifish in appearance, Avi's role can be played by any gender. Shadow Men, a chorus of 3 shadows which appear on the tile walls of the station, at times leaning on a subway column, checking their watch or iPhone, looking down the tracks. As O.T. tells prison stories, the shadow men will engage with him in dialogue. They will at times appear, and when the stage lights dim, disappear. Ghosts of Hudson will appear as shadows on the tiled walls of the station. These are former inmates, girls and young women, incarcerated at the Hudson Correctional Facility from the 1890s and up until the 1970s. This is a true history. The outline of their silhouettes, the boxy dresses, is worn by female inmates. Their story is integral to this play, as Hudson is where O.T. spent the final years of his bid. At Rise, stage right is a subway bench, and on it a sketchbook and pencil. Stage left is a folding stool beside an overstuffed backpack, and behind the platform is the grimy, white-tiled wall of the station. Seated on the stool beside a bulging backpack stuffed with all the portable property of a person living on the street, Avi sits with her guitar case open at her feet. She tunes her instrument and then takes a cell phone for the bib of her overalls. She opens YouTube on her phone and clicks on a video of a guitarist playing Winter of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. She then props up the phone on her backpack so that she can view the video. This video appears on the tiled wall of the station. As Avi listens and studies the screen on her phone, she runs her fingers along the neck of the guitar and sways with its rhythm. Enter O.T., who stands and listens, then drops a $5 bill into the open guitar case. That's beautiful, man. Used to listen to classical every night upstate. You're from upstate? No, I'm from New Rochelle. Lived upstate though, 17 years. How about you? Where are you from? And that's how the play begins. So it's kind of come together organically, the creative principle and us as New Yorkers. And it's never about it's about us. right? It's about us and how we work together and how we creatively come together, sort of recreate, you know, ourselves in a better world. So that's my piece of the pie today. Now, I believe Karina, who I was delighted, was a student of mine last semester. I leave it open. When I meet students, I'm always ready for amazement. And my students always amaze me, whether it's with their own writing, it's with their kindness, with their diligence. And in Karina's case, it was with her talent. Karina is a published author. In Poland, she has 2 remarkable young adult fantasy novels. She's also a journalist. And so I'm also honored to be sharing this program with Selin and Karina.
Thank you. That's true. I'm really thrilled because I'm here not only as a student but also as a writer. So I can consider you not only as my teachers but also like kind of colleagues because we
Absolutely.
are all writers. And now I want to ask you, both of you, as a reader, but also as a writer. And I call it writing Kryptonite. So, as you know, Superman's story, he needed to use kryptonite to be strong and does all these amazing things. But at the same time, it was his great weakness because without it, he couldn't be a Superman. So the question is, what is your personal writing kryptonite? So something that gives you strength, what inspires you, but sometimes can be a weakness.
Selin, do you want to begin?
That's a great question, Karina. And definitely I would call myself, I label myself an empath. So an empath is somebody who deeply senses other people's pain. I'm very sensitive. I believe you mentioned that during our off chat discussion as well. I literally feel other people's pain when they're suffering, when I hear the news. I'm one of those people that cries, okay? Let's just sum it up as that. So when I get into the characters and when I'm trying to write, I literally get into the character's mind. I need nature to write. Nature inspires me. I can look at a body of water. It could be a lake, it could be a pool, it could be a little pond. I definitely conjure up these characters and I take from my own life, definitely people who have hurt me in my life, they become characters. People who have inspired me from life, they also become characters. But this is the thing, in terms of being an empath, people who hurt me, I try to understand where they came from because we're all human. We are not perfect. None of us are perfect. So for example, the catalyst begins with a murderer, an anonymous murderer, and you don't know who it is until the end. Okay, so that's the whole premise. That's why it's a mystery. You think it's one person, but it could be another, right? It's a whodunit kind of, in a way, aside from being a soul-searching one about identity and marriage and life in a new country, et cetera, et cetera. And in it, and I have based the character off of, yes, somebody from real life who has hurt me. It's sort of like a minor revenge fantasy, yes. But I don't come at it with, oh, this person was so horrible, evil. Look at this person committing this crime. And then later on at the end, you discover who it is and shame on them and everybody, you know, no. I have approached even the killer as from an empathetic point of view because I believe that as to the character, it makes him more or her more multidimensional. All of us, all the characters that I use, I definitely show, and I like to show how they have weaknesses and strengths. So even the protagonist, she's not perfect. Caitlin Merrick is my protagonist and she is not perfect. She makes mistakes. People who claim to be perfect are the ones who make the most mistakes. So we're all human and I definitely, I can try to, I believe that's my kryptonite. And yes, it makes me suffer sometimes when I feel other people's pain and I do get hurt by people more easily than perhaps some other people. I don't have a shield up, but because I don't have that shield up, I allow that flow in through my writing. And I set free my flow. That's my upcoming poetry book that I'm writing, the second one, Set Free Your Flow. And I definitely allow that to be voiced by the characters.
Thank you. So it's time for Elena.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question because it's the weaknesses that you write that eventually make us strong. And I think I suffered more as a young writer. All right, self-doubt. You know, and there are always those people around you. You have to learn how to have discernment. Who are those people whose voices you should be open to, and who are those voices that are going to block you? And if you have, when we all have it, when we have self-doubt, it shuts us down creatively. You know, so as a writer, and now I've been at this for a very long time, once I take strength, right? I take pride, right? And who I am and the people who have helped contribute to my life and whose life I contribute. So I lose the self-doubt because it's not, I think as a young person, the ego is very vulnerable, right? But it's once you learn that you're connected to your ancestors, you're connected to the people who hurt you because maybe you learned the most from them, right? I'm connected to my students. So over time, it was losing that self-doubt that's given me, you know, strength, I think, as a writer and as an educator and as a human being. And thank you very much to all of humanity for helping me realize that we're all very much connected beings. How about you, Karina? What's your kryptonite?
I really, really related to what Selena said because being really sensitive, it helps a lot. Because the other thing is, this is really interesting, I can write only when I'm unhappy. When I'm happy, I can't write because I'm just too busy to be happy. But when I'm not happy, I can write. And I think this is the biggest strength that I have, that I can feel really people emotions, like really feel that. But on the other hand, it's my great weaknesses because I can drown into these emotions, which is not healthy at all because it's just too much. So, but I accept that because without it, I couldn't be a writer. So I'm okay with it. So I believe this is my writing kryptonite. But I really like what you say about self-doubt. So my next question is, what is the common traps for a writer? And I believe self-doubt is one of them, but could be more.
I'll start with that. I think not beginning. You know, I work with young writers all the time. My students are young. You're all young, and life is long. You have to begin somewhere. I once heard a wonderful interview with who played just went out of my head. This happens to get older. Forrest Gump. Who's the actor?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. It was a wonderful interview, and he said when he was, and I hope you all know that film because it can't be that old, right? That when he was coming up with that distinctive accent for Forrest Gump, at first it was terrible, you know, and he knew it was terrible, but he also knew, and it took him months to keep playing with it because he knew he would find the voice, and he did. And
can I imitate him to give the students a sense of, can I imitate that? I love that.
What is that?
Can I imitate Tom Hanks for a second?
Sure.
Sure. As Forrest Gump?
Life is like a mama always said, life is like a box of chocolates.
There you go. It took him a long time to come up with that accent. I think it's a perfect metaphor for us as artists, because what happens is often we give up before we even begin. We have to expect there's going to be an ugly period, even with any book, any poem, even if we're all professional writers. Initially, we're faced with a blank page. Doesn't matter if you've done it for 50 years or you're brand new to writing, right? But the key is to lose the self-doubt and know it's not, and don't listen to people. Say, oh, that's all. No, don't listen to them because your work is evolving. So if there are any young musicians, artists, wherever you're at, allow yourself the process, right? To go through your initial period with any work, because if you stay with it, you're going to make it better. You're going to revise it. It's going to be something wonderful, but it has to go through that phase. What do you think, Karina, about that question? What do you think is one of the traps for young writers or any writer?
Well, I have a great advice for any writer or someone who wants to be a writer. Start from the end, not from the beginning, because beginnings are really, really difficult. So start from the end. This is how I start. Each book was started from the end. I just need to have the last scene, because otherwise I just can't move. So if you think that beginnings are really difficult for you, start from the end and just start. And of course, don't try to be perfect, because you'll never be perfect. And this is a relief. And I can say that I won't be perfect. It's not possible. So you can feel relieved. So I don't have to. I don't have to, and I can write whatever I want. And of course, the first draft is always bad, but you need to accept that. And then it will be better and better. And now it's like when I start to write, I know it will be bad, because the first draft is always bad. It's like the first pancake is always spoiled. But then it's a really nice, delicious pancake. So there is another thing, and it's my other questions. This is my another question. Do you read your book reviews? I mean, reviews of your books, because I know authors who don't read at all, and I know authors who read every single one and discuss every single one. And I can tell you that I remember that I read every single review of my first book, and it was really difficult for me, because it was the first time when I needed to face critics. And now I don't read at all. I don't read it. And to be honest, I don't care. If someone read it, that's wonderful. It was good, perfect. If it wasn't good, so what? I I really feel free right now, but I know that this is another trap, to be dependent on someone's voices. And you need to remember that many people who write these short reviews, for example, on Amazon, uh, well, they've never ever tried to write something, so then can give you 1 star. But so what? I mean, in my case, I don't mind. That's fine. But after first book, yeah, I read everything.
Karina, I have a question about that 1 star, because I recently have been getting 5 stars consistently from people I didn't even know. I've been very flattered. And then randomly, literally 2 weeks ago, I just got a 1 star from Amazon Global. So it's not somebody, I don't think it's somebody who's actually read my book. If somebody gave me a 1 star and wrote a review saying, listen, I don't know what the hype is about, it sucked, whatever, fair enough, like I will respect that. But I could just tell instinctively this was somebody who was annoyed with me in real life, or who just thought something negative, who just wanted to, like, you know, throw a little rock in my way. It was just so obvious to me. So I was just like, if you're going to give 1 star, please explain why you think the book is bad. Then, you know, we all accept, you know, criticism. So that is definitely something I would say. I definitely, otherwise, if somebody actually has read it, I definitely do. I love all the reviews. I've been surprised by many of the reviews, because I thought I had meant for one character to be one way, but sometimes we'll review it, even if they never publish it on an Amazon review or Goodreads review. By the way, guys, if you read any of our novels, anybody's novel, please leave reviews. The reviews are so important for novelists, because a lot of times they DM me and they say, I loved it, it kept me up all night, this character, and I related to that character. And then they never leave a review. I'm like, please. So my thing would be, it surprises me sometimes when I think I had intended a character to be like a villain, but somebody liked them, or another character to be not so relevant, but they actually thought that character was relevant. So the surprises can be helpful. But to go back to the previous question, I believe I couldn't answer. about the sort of like the process. I love that advice, absolutely, just like one of our readers did too, about starting at the end. I do the same thing. Also, I start at the end, but I know where the story is gonna go. I write all the chapters in Microsoft Word file, and I sum it up, like sort of like a place. So I love that excerpt that Eileen read to us from her upcoming play. I would love to not only watch the play, but if I may be one of those boxed dressed lady inmates, I would love to, if you ever produce this. I love acting, you can tell. But joking aside, I'm only half kidding. I do want to act in it. Definitely, I write like chapter 4, and I put like, describe the scene in parentheses. You know, Caitlin goes to Paul, says this. Paul is affected by this. Like I have like this, I set up the scene like a narrator, and each chapter I summarize the scene for myself so that when I go back, and I write when I'm happy actually. So it's a little bit opposite. I write when I'm happy. I write poetry when I'm sad. Write out your drops. It also involves teardrops. I write poetry when I'm sad, but I write the novel when I'm happy. And I go back and write the dialogue. I interview the dialogue later. So I sum up every chapter like a narrator, like a theatrical script. That would be my advice.
I have the same. I'm really surprised that
Yeah.
so many authors have the same. I mean, I always start with dialogues. So I have like many pages of dialogues, and then it's for me kind of boring thing to do the descriptive part. Also, if I tell you my secret, the most not interesting part of my writing is this physical writing, because creating a story is the best part. When you think about it, of course, the best ideas you can get under the shower, and you don't have any paper to write it down. But then it's a really tough job to write. Like you need to spend many hours to write. And if you know that if you write an essay, and even it's like 10 pages, oh, it's a really tough job. And now, do you imagine that you need to write like 200, 300, for example, in my case, 3 books, it was like almost 2,000 pages for 3 books. So it's a really hard work, and I really don't like the last process. So maybe in the future, I will hire someone who will be just listening and type.
That's cheating, sorry, no.
No?
Gotta suffer a little bit. Gotta
Oh,
suffer for your
okay.
books.
Yeah.
Now, if it works,
Okay.
tell me. You know, Karina, we got a very interesting question I'd like to respond to from Nishiba. And she says, are there classes that anyone from outside can take as far as these writing classes? All right, let me answer that. Now, if you're a student at ASA, you will be required to take English Comp 1 and Comp 2. And that's a wonderful place to be further developing, but that's academic writing. We're basing it on literature, but it's academic writing. I know with my students, our first assignment, we do 1 creative writing. We're going to be writing dramatic monologues this semester, right? There is an option for our students because we're a technical college, right? Although wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a creative writing class? But on Sundays, Karina joins me. I hope Selin will be joining me this semester. On Sundays at 1 o'clock, if you want to join me, it's a creative writing club. So it really depends on sometimes we just have these kind of wonderful creative conversations like we're having now. You know, sometimes a student will come and say, I don't know why I'm stuck. And we have a very supportive, we talk about craft. Sometimes a student will bring, remember Ashley Morell? She used to, every so often she'd show up with another stunning poem, right? So that's one option I can suggest. This semester, I really would like to build that and it's only 1 hour. However, I would like to be giving creative assignments and encouraging you, because I'd like to have more of these events. What we've done today, I know I've heard it from our administration, this is what we want at ASA. Yes, it's a technical college. Yes, you're very diligent in your academic work, but we want to create a forum so that you can express yourself creatively. So Nishiba, and any of you can email any of us. You know, the ASA email for the professors is just first initial, last name. And in this case, I write under Merwin, that's my birth name, but ASA, I'm still Wrestler. So if you write to ewrestler@asa.edu, or Selin or Karina is a student here, you know, we're glad to answer any, you know, questions that we might not have covered. I also want to put, if you didn't catch it, if you want to read 17 North, this is my website. And if you go there, you click on 17 North if you're interested in the paintings. I'd also love at some point to get painters together. I would love at some point when we're back to the real world, you know, to do an exhibition of your artworks, but it will take you're initially reaching out. So maybe come to one of these sessions, Sundays, 1 o'clock, this particular email, Zoom ID, and let's create something together. It doesn't have to be my agenda. I want to hear from you. What are your creative gifts and how can we make them more public? So Nishiba, does that answer your question?
Yes, so this Sunday you're having a creative writing
We'll do it,
class.
yeah. Absolutely, and it's not a class. You can pop in, you can pop out, you can do the assignment. You know, it's and that's the beauty of it. All right, so yeah, join me at 1 o'clock on Sunday, and we'll see what happens creatively.
Okay, on the same Zoom, right? Okay. Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Great question. Thank you for asking that.
Well, I must say, because I joined it even before Eileen became my professor. We met before because of that 1 hour on Sunday. And I must say, it always makes my day, even if it's really bad day, it always makes my day because people come with many ideas. And the other thing I really enjoy is I can meet people from different countries, which is extremely inspiring experience because sometimes they think about the same thing in completely different way, and this is really, really, really inspiring. And I think it's a good platform for international students. Well, I'm an international student as well, to feel more comfortable because we know how challenging is that city. So it's a really great platform also for exchanging our experience, and who knows, maybe we can create something together, some piece of art. I don't know, but yeah, really, really join that.
Yeah, I will.
Can I also
I will
add,
be
I'm sorry,
joining.
Nishiba, that'd be great.
Great.
I will be joining this Sunday at 1. Yeah.
Right. I also want to, it's like, I know sometimes students are shy. They'll say, oh, I have an accent. Guess what? So do I. Everybody has an accent. You know, people say, oh, no, I think this is a great opportunity to build some confidence in your English, start to feel comfortable in your new identity in this second language, and never lose your accents, because that's the color of your English. That's the beauty of English. There's no one English, right? And if you're, like we talked about before, if you're a newcomer to English, join us. You know, and you're going to feel comfortable, and you're going to gain the confidence that you need in communicating in English and being creative in English.
Absolutely, and that's very true. And you know, your accent is your color. It's what makes you you, like a fingerprint. What makes you unique. But there's also no accent in writing. So if you are self-conscious about it, definitely there's no accent when you write. So absolutely, writing definitely heals the subconscious issues as well.
I think also it's really helpful for really practical reason, because we have to do many presentations during
Right.
yes. So it well, I don't have a problem with that, but I know that many students struggle with, like speeches and so on. And this is a really, really friendly group on Sunday, so I think it also can prepare you for some something serious like presentation, like speech. So yeah, you can benefit. It's, I don't know what can I say more to encourage everyone here to join us. But
We only have, what, about 10 minutes left, Karina? Maybe, does anybody else have any questions they want to put in the chat box?
sure, we have like 6 minutes, so this is the time for shy ones. So you can put your question in the chat box, and I'm sure we'll be thrilled to.
You can raise your hand,
answer.
guys, with the raised hand button as well.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Nashiba.
That's great. I'm glad you did.
I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. And we'll meet each other on Sunday. I hope more people appear. So there was one hand, right? Someone rose the hand or not? Because we don't have any other questions in the chat. Christian, do you have any questions for us? Or we answered everything? Oh, okay. We have a question from Anor. How is the publishing process working?
How does it work?
Right, we only have a couple minutes. We talked about this in a pre-meeting. I think that would be a wonderful topic for a whole nother conversation, because the publishing world there was a revolution. As much of a resolution when we went from scrolls to the printing press, digital publishing is a game changer. All right. And there are so many different options and opportunities if you're a new writer or an experienced writer there's no one cookie cutter answer to that anymore. So great question, and I think that's something we should handle in another event. And the topic would be about publishing, about self-publishing, about independent publishing, about traditional publishing, about finding venues for yourself online. There's so many online magazines. And it depends on what are your goals as a writer. So you don't look out there, what's out there. You say, well, who am I and what it is I have to offer? And then you find the venue. That worked for me years ago. I was thinking I'd like to write children's stories. And there was a big fat book, I'm sure it was a directory, and you can get it in any genre, and you can because it's like dating, right? And let me tell you this, no one is coming looking for your manuscript. I think a lot of young writers think, I have a great idea, there's a publisher, he's going to discover. It doesn't work, never did. That's a wonderful fairy tale, all right? It's a lot of hard work, but once you identify who you are as a writer, and you do the very, very hard work, and you work with other writers, and you have a manuscript, that's when you go dating. And you find an agent, you can't find publishers directly anymore, and you find the venue that works for you. Would you agree with that, Karina?
Absolutely. I'm reading comments, and yeah, so many great ideas here. Yeah, maybe one day we can offer a live reading at the school. This is a great idea. I love that. It would be really, really nice. So I believe it's not the end. It's just the beginning. I believe it's the beginning of the whole list of great events like that, because as we can see, we really enjoyed the time and we got really interesting questions. So thank you for this meeting. Thank you all that you spent that hour in this really hot day with us. And I hope we'll see each other again on another great writer event.